Tolstoy's Peace, a journey beyond dogma. The tranquility that Tolstoy found was not rooted in traditional religious dogmas, but rather in a direct connection to the infinite, from a new spiritual perspective. For him, life gained purpose when lived in harmony with faith and universal ethical principles. In his later years, Tolstoy dedicated himself to writing, teaching, and inspiring others. His legacy transcended literature, leaving behind a heritage that was much greater than the written word. Despite various forms of resistance, even from his own family, Tolstoy remained unwavering in his commitment to his values. When he passed away in 1910, Tolstoy left not just his immortal works, but also a life transformed by the quest for meaning, a life that demonstrated how this pursuit could completely reshape one's existence. He was not just an author. He was a global literary titan, widely respected, with significant wealth, a flourishing farm, and a loving family. His life epitomized success. Yet, hidden beneath this gleaming surface, an unbearable emptiness had begun to grow. By the time he turned 50, something unfathomable to the outside world began to unfold. Tolstoy faced an existential crisis, questioning everything he had built. Despite outward appearances of happiness and success, he was consumed by the brutal nihilism that surrounded him. Sleeplessness drained him, dark thoughts haunted his mind, and the thought of suicide lurked like a shadow. How could someone who seemed to have it all lose the ability to find joy? This paradox reveals a profound contradiction of the human condition. What is it that can strip a person not only of their joy, but also of the very meaning of their existence? Perhaps the first clues lie in Tolstoy's early years, where seeds of doubt were planted. From a young age, he harbored a deep skepticism toward Christianity, a view shaped by painful experiences losing both his parents early, which left an unfillable void, and his interactions with religious institutions, which appeared hypocritical and disconnected from human reality. These experiences deepened his disdain for doctrines that could allow such profound suffering. Tolstoy could not accept a God who permitted so much pain, and the ready-made answers religion provided only deepened his inner chasm. Rather than offering solace, these disappointments pushed him to question even further. It was as though his soul was locked in an unrelenting battle, rejecting blind acceptance as much as indifference. Yet, in trying to escape this divine absence, Tolstoy found himself descending into an even darker existential crisis. At 50, Tolstoy faced a consuming internal conflict, which he laid bare with brutal honesty in his work, A Confession. The character Levin, portrayed in the work, was not just a literary creation, but a direct reflection of Tolstoy's own mind, man grappling with doubt about the purpose of life and confronting an existential void. Despite external success and admiration, Tolstoy felt lost, questioning whether anything beyond nothingness truly existed. His quest for answers led him to a profound realization. One cannot simply abandon the search. As he faced the weight of this emptiness, Tolstoy embarked on an unrelenting journey to seek answers, delving into various philosophies and ideologies. He explored the thoughts of Socrates, Buddha, and other great thinkers, but found only unsettling conclusions. From a rational standpoint, life seemed to be nothing more than a painful, inevitable march toward death. This pessimism deepened his despair, reinforcing the belief that existence was nothing but a tortuous path toward its inevitable end. Yet Tolstoy did not surrender. He refused to accept defeat or complacency. While science, often seen as a beacon of progress, failed to provide solace, Darwinism, with its view of life as a mere biological accident, seemed devoid of transcendent meaning. The intellect, which he revered, appeared unable to offer anything beyond cold, mechanistic logic. Tolstoy was not seeking mere rational answers. He longed for meaning that could touch his soul. Amidst all this intellectual coldness, Tolstoy began observing the lives around him, noticing a new possibility. As he analyzed the existential void, he realized that people cope with life's apparent meaninglessness in 4 primary ways. These approaches reflected efforts to confront the inevitable suffering of the human condition, but Tolstoy saw each of them as inherently limited. Ignorance, Epicureanism, suicide, and existential limbo were not just categories. They represented portraits of how individuals attempt to live without confronting life's great mysteries. Avoiding deep questions, many focus on daily routines, short-term successes, and superficial pleasures, living in a cycle of repetitive actions. This denial of existential emptiness may seem effective at first, offering a peaceful life free from turmoil, but Tolstoy believed it to be ultimately illusory and transient. In the end, the reality of death and suffering demands confrontation, tearing away the veil of ignorance and forcing individuals to face painful truths. Tolstoy viewed ignorance as a fragile refuge that could not protect anyone from the inevitable suffering life brings. He saw Epicureanism seeking temporary pleasures as a means to escape the void, as a futile attempt to numb the pain. These pleasures, whether physical, emotional, or intellectual, act as an anesthetic against the absurdity of existence, delaying the confrontation with life's deeper questions. But no matter how intense these pleasures might be, they are fleeting, and the joy they provide is quickly replaced by new unease. Epicureanism, according to Tolstoy, was nothing more than a cycle of dissatisfaction masked by temporary relief. For Tolstoy, suicide seemed to be the most radical and definitive response to the existential void. For those who believed life had no meaning or purpose, it appeared to be the only logical solution. Yet, while he understood the rationale behind this decision, he rejected suicide as an acceptable answer. To abandon life, he argued, was to forsake the possibility of discovering something beyond despair. Death did not solve the problem. It merely interrupted the search for answers. This perspective led Tolstoy to explore other ways of confronting the absurd. He rejected the notion of simply accepting pain, and instead continued his search for a deeper meaning. Existential limbo, the state of accepting life's emptiness without acting, was even more debilitating and paralyzing. In this state, one is aware of their suffering but remains unable to move forward. For Tolstoy, this stagnation was the weakest form of existence, as it trapped the individual in a cycle of unanswered questions, devoid of hope or purpose. It was through observing the simple lives of peasants, even in the face of hardship, that Tolstoy arrived at a pivotal realization. Despite their struggles, these individuals displayed unwavering faith, finding purpose even in modest routines. This realization astounded him, as it directly contradicted his own crisis, filled with luxuries and philosophical self-reflection. These people had something he had lost, a connection to the divine. Perhaps the meaning of life lay not in cold reasoning, but in something beyond the intellect, something unreachable by pure thought. This insight led Tolstoy to reevaluate his beliefs. Although he rejected Orthodox Christianity's dogmas, he began to understand that faith in something greater, the infinite, was essential to transcend existential despair. This shift in perspective made him realize that the mind, no matter how powerful, was inherently limited. He concluded that the meaning of life could not be found on a material or rational level. It required a connection to the divine. This awareness prompted Tolstoy to transform his life. He renounced a pursuit of wealth and recognition, choosing instead a simpler, more spiritual existence. After his spiritual awakening, Tolstoy made decisions that profoundly influenced his worldview and lifestyle. He abandoned the search for material success and chose a humble, modest life. He believed that living in harmony with others, serving others, and practicing charity were the core values that should guide one's life. He began to harshly critique the social and religious structures he believed perpetuated inequality and devoted himself to promoting justice and mercy. For Tolstoy, this simplification was not a sacrifice, but rather a form of freedom.